and engrafted in the middle of a series as we've been talking about the Hebrew alphabet and all that that means. I know, Jordan, you and I started out the first two, and now the three of us are here. We did one on Emet last week. We've done Emunah. Taking a look at Hebrew letters and the meanings of those letters, and finding out that in English, a word is composed of letters, but the letters don't mean anything.
Right. That's right.
And when we look at Hebrew, however, there's meaning in the letters themselves. And when we begin to explore that, what happens is what is being communicated in the Word of God, in the Scriptures, takes on a whole new dimension for us and opens up a depth of understanding.
That's right.
One of the exciting things, I know why we're into Jewish roots, is because there's so much that we were robbed from, that we didn't have, and now we get into that reservoir. Isn't that what Paul says, that we've been grafted in, and the root supports us?
That's right.
So when we're studying the Hebrew together, that is the root supporting us and giving us just new realms of places to walk in the Spirit with the Word of God. So we are going to take the word what today?
Devar.
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 And how is that, Jordan?
It is spelled Dalet, Vet or Bet, and Resh.
Resh. Yes.
Daleth, Bet, and Resh.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And Devar, in the Hebrew, is translated, interestingly enough, it can be translated word, okay? But it also is translated thing.
Whoa. Now that is unexpected. A word or a thing
doesn't seem to be connected
don't seem to be connected, but
But
Devar
what
can
it
be
connects
both.
with is, if you go right back to Genesis 1,
Okay.
where God said, and he saw.
Yep.
He said, and he saw. It was the very speaking that created the thing. And that's what we understand about faith. It's the words of our mouth, as we speak them, they actually contain the essence to create the very thing we spoke.
So we tend to...
And some would say, well, that was God. But you know what? A little bit farther on there, it says, let us make man in our image.
So we should be the same.
So we have the same creative power in our tongue.
So let me ask some questions about that. So speaking the word and a thing, and in Genesis, what you're saying is it was the word that created the thing. And in our world, I don't think of a thing like a cup attached to words that I speak. Words seem to be kind of funny little things that just float out there. What's a word? What does it mean? But the Hebrew understands that words and things are intimately connected.
That's right. They sure are.
That words impact things.
That's
Is that what you're telling me?
The words themselves carry the ability to create the manifestation of the thing spoken.
Everything we see was originally
Originally
created
a
by
word.
It was originally
It's
a word.
a word planet, in other words.
Well, I can understand that, so that the designer of my cup didn't go out and say to the manufacturer, would you make me a
here's
widget?
A cup.
No.
He had to use words to convey.
That's right.
Right.
And so his words then get words are really, words are communicating
They're
pictures.
containers.
They're containers.
They are containers.
A word is a
what they
container
are.
of a picture.
That's right.
And the challenge in communication is to make sure the words I use are communicating the picture in
Right.
your world. So
That's right.
my words and your words have got to line up for us to have any exchange
That's
of
right.
communication.
That's right.
And if you look back to the account in Genesis of the Tower of Babel and how it said that the whole world was of one language. It doesn't
One speech.
We think of at the Tower of Babel. That's when French, English, German, Italian, those languages came out of there. That's not necessarily what it meant, because back then the world was of one common speech. So if I said something, you would see the exact picture that I was saying. They understood. They
were on the
understood
same
each other.
line.
They were
That's
on the
right.
same line.
Yep.
So when the incident at the Tower of Babel happened and God confused their speech, it wasn't just that he mixed up their languages. He made it so they couldn't understand
each
other.
other's words, even if they
couldn't-
knew the word.
They couldn't communicate to each other what their.
There was no comprehension that took place.
comprehension.
There was no comprehension because they didn't get the picture.
Well, if that doesn't describe confusion in the world today.
That is true.
I mean, where
That is
we
true.
can share the English language together,
That's right.
but people are
Right.
going back and
Right.
forth, and there's no communication taking
That's right.
place.
Right.
That's
I
right.
can say the word dog to you.
That's
and
right.
there's a certain picture that comes to mind, but if I start saying a black
Black
dog,
dog.
or a big black dog, a big mean black dog,
That's right.
these start creating pictures. So we have to find more words to wrap around to
that's right.
describe the picture that's in my mind, because it may not be the same. You may have been thinking of a little poodle, and
That's
I'm
right.
thinking of a big Doberman or something.
That's
You know,
right.
so
That's
the
right.
picture we gotta find words to
And the
communicate.
art is in communicating, so
Right.
you're both seeing the same picture. Now, interesting about that is all the letters of the Hebrew alphabet actually have a picture to them. And they usually will give you a description or a visual of what the word itself means.
Right.
Which is a very rich thing in and of itself. We'll have to go through that sometime on
Right.
this program. But you know, in our world of faith, where we realize the creative power of our tongue, that speaking, even quantum physics is beginning to realize that, you know, when you're speaking something, you're changing, you're actually having an impact on the molecular structure down to the quark level of things, that, you know, speech coming forth does have an impact. Whether you can see it with this natural eye, it is actually changing things. And I think of a book that I read by Dr. Cho, it's called The Fourth Dimension, I believe, when this neurologist was speaking to Dr. Cho, and he was saying, you know, you faith people, you know, you've got it right, you know, that the speech center is the center of the brain that causes everything to happen,
It's
that
the
creates
control
things.
center.
It's the control center. And where Dr. Cho says, oh yeah, I've known that for a long time. And he says, well, how could you know this for a long time? These are new things to us. And he says, oh, well,
My
Dr.
doctor.
James told me about that in the book of James. And, you know, it's like, even the medical science is beginning to catch up with, or the quantum physicists are beginning to catch up with the concepts of eternity, of eternalness, that are implanted within this physical realm that God put here all together, and the word talks about it all over the place. And we're just beginning to catch up with the realization and the understanding of what we're doing. And I think the Hebrews have the deepest level, the highest level of an understanding about that concept, about the power of your words, okay? They may not have brought it down a line of faith, especially the way we do, but it's very close and similar to ours, because we spoke about it in the last session about, you know, Lashon Hara and what that does. They understand the concept of sound being eternal, that when you speak it out, that it's there, it's hanging there. And the word talks about that we're going to give an account for every idle, non-effective, non-productive word that we have ever spoken. Right. You know, people will think, yeah, well, you know, how is that going to happen? Well, science is proving the fact that they have machinery, some kind of technical things there, that are listening out in the outer atmospheres about things, and what they're hearing is, they're hearing sound. They're hearing sound out there. What is this sound? And as they began to develop it more and listen to it, they realized that every word ever spoken in this is scientists now, this is not Christians or religious people. The scientists say that every word that was ever spoken is still resounding out there. And what does the word say? These rocks will give witness because they have heard.
That's
because
right.
speech, Devar, or Devar, whichever way
Definitely
you want to say
does.
it, it is eternal, and it speaks, and it actually created something eternal when you spoke it.
Well,
It's amazing.
isn't
It's
it-
just an amazing concept for us to just wrap ourselves around.
And isn't it interesting, in Joshua 24:27, it talks about how I set this stone to be a
To
witness,
be a witness to
in
you,
our midst of
'cause
the
these
covenant that was
rocks have
being
heard.
read. So that very stone is a witness in their midst. It
That's
heard.
right.
It has heard. And
That's
isn't
right.
science, they're trying to come up with a way to extract the sound from things.
That's right.
So like, say, plants that are in a room.
That's right.
Those plants have witnessed everything
something.
that's in that room. So they're trying to find,
They have
starting to develop
something.
the
They have something that
technology.
develops that knows that the plant underwent a metabolical change. Like, say if a plant was in a room and a crime happened, okay? A murder or something like that, a violent crime. That plant, the molecules of that plant,
Change.
actually, they changed. They physically changed because they witnessed that. They witnessed the sound of it. They witnessed the change in the atmosphere because of words that were spoken. And they're learning now. They know with absolute certainty that the plant changed. They can go that far, so far. They understand that the plant had a molecular change in its structure. What they're trying to develop is so that they could take that plant, and that plant can literally tell them who did it. You know, and that whole thing, who done it, the butler and what room and all that. Well, I'm going to tell you, the plant is able to tell us because the sound made a change. The speaking out of something, the sound in the atmosphere actually had a molecular structural change took place. A creative change took place in the plant.
So they're working on extracting the words out of
That's
out
right.
of out of the very matter around us.
That's right. That's right.
So-
And they're going to come to that.
Oh, yeah.
Because we can already do that when you're speaking and something's picking it up and it's recording it on this little metal disc. It's called a CD or a DVD even now. They have machinery that can extract that off of there now.
Yeah.
So that you can play it back
Right.
and you can hear what somebody says. It
So
captures
someday
it.
they may end up being able to play back sounds from your ring, sounds from...
Well, that's true because this ring has heard.
That's
And
right.
that's why it's very important to understand what kind of sounds and words have been spoken in the atmosphere so you know what to renature, so to speak, you know? And it's like,
And it talks about that in Habakkuk, that he's talking to the children of Israel, and they had sinned against him, and he said
right.
that the stones of their house would cry out, and
That's
the
right.
woodwork of their house would answer it.
that's right.
It would,
The
against
beams.
them. It would
The
testify
beams, that's
against
right, the
them. The
beams are
beams
gonna-
of their house would
That's right, they're
testify
gonna
against them. And people think, oh, that's just
But it's
ridiculous.
all over the place.
But that is the word. That is God seeing things. He
That's right.
knew before science ever
That's right.
began finding
That's
these
right.
things
So
out.
if I-
And all that sound that's out there, all those words. Now think, Yeshua said lots of words. Those words are still resounding
That's right.
in the atmosphere.
So if I were to go back in history, if I were to take a CD in history and go back, 50 years in a time machine and show people the CD and they say, what is that? Well, that's an entire movie.
That's right.
Okay, they'd say,
Yeah.
you're crazy. And they'd say, show it to us. But if I didn't have the machine with
Machinery.
me,
Right.
That's right.
the truth is that
That it
CD
is on
has
there.
the movie.
That's
Right.
right.
I do not, at that point in history, have the ability to get it out.
Right.
And
So-
they may not believe it, but just because they don't believe it doesn't mean that's
Right.
not
Right.
true.
Well, that's my point. That's what I'm getting to, which is that the truth is there's a movie recorded on there. But I can't convince the people that it's there because they have no ability to see it. But that
Right.
doesn't negate what it is.
Right.
That's right.
So when Vancouvering says, I'm giving a lecture, and he puts a steel bar and sets it down,
That's right.
and he says, now I'll
is
take this
recording
back,
everything.
and it's recorded, my whole lecture.
That's right.
I don't have the ability to get the sound out of it.
Right.
Yet.
Yeah.
He is
They're developing it,
he's
though.
like a man in time. In other words, he believes there'll come a time when we have the technology to get the sound, the word, out of the thing.
That's right.
The word out of the thing. To us, that sounds like weirdness. It sounds like science fiction. It sounds
Yeah.
like weird things,
Not to us, but
No.
to
to
people.
our generation. But to the Hebrew,
That's right.
what you're saying with today's word, Devar,
They
that
understand.
because it can mean word and it can mean thing, that God embedded in that very word itself an understanding
That's
of
right.
truth,
That's right.
an understanding that words and things belong
They're
together,
intimately connected.
even though we do not understand that yet. We're
right.
coming to understand it through science and technology. But come on, the word Devar was around for hundreds and thousands
Yeah.
of years.
That's right.
And so way back in the Old Testament, in the Torah, there is a word in Hebrew that contains the truth of God's universe.
That's right.
That's right.
One word.
That's right.
That you look at that word, and the rabbis could say there's a connection between things and words that we speak.
That's right.
And they could understand that hundreds of years before we had the technology
That's
to
right.
begin to explore
That's right.
what we're discussing.
That's right.
Is that
And
true?
then,
That's
and then
right.
you look at the verse where Yeshua said, "You will have whatever you say."
Say, that's
and you
right.
you think of most people, they would not want that to happen.
No,
They would
that's
not
right, because
want to
they're
have whatever
careless
they
with
say.
their words.
They're careless with what they say. So somebody walks out and says, "Oh, that kills me." They drop dead on the spot.
Laugh till I thought I'd die, you know?
If you listen to the majority of phrases in this culture,
It's death.
it's death.
It's death.
Speaking death.
That's
And
right. But
again,
that's 'cause
that
the
connects
aleph
back
is
to the, That
missing.
connects back to the emet, the truth.
That's
They
right, that's
remove
right.
the aleph, so they're
That's right.
speaking death in their very phrases. But we're coming to a time when God wants to turn up the power on our
That's
words
right.
so that we can be speaking things and they do come to pass.
That's right.
But it's His mercy that it's not turned
That's
up
right.
now.
That's right.
Until we get our words in line with His word.
That's right. And the whole concept behind all of this, because it's all connected, is that He's a faith God. Okay, He's a faith God. Faith is the substance of things hoped for.
right.
And what it is how does faith come? Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. Well, how can you hear without words being spoken? And it's a
right.
whole cycle. I mean, it's just a life cycle that goes together. And if you don't understand the underlying principles, you're not understanding that you might be undercutting your own faith by careless words all the time. You're speaking because you are creating things with your words. You are speaking things. But if you understand, okay, I have to have an integrity to my words, the unraveling of the faith mystery is very, very simple.
That's right.
Because if you look in the Hebrew, it's all there. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word,
And how does
which
it
is
go?
Devar.
It goes by speaking.
That's right, and it comes by speaking. And if you speak to something that is out of alignment with where it should be, it will hear you and it will respond. And it will come back into alignment. And that's what faith is. Faith is renaturing those things that have fallen below the line. And the only way you can renature them and bring them back into godly alignment is through words.
So here's an interesting concept, because in the epistles, it talks about Abraham, and this is where Paul is writing about him in the book of Romans, and it speaks about faith calls things
That be
be
not.
that are not as though they are. Now notice, it does not say faith calls things that are
As though they
As
were.
though they
as though
are
they
not.
are not.
That's right, it's not
It says it
denying.
calls things that are not as though they are. So, faith is not saying that's not a cup.
That's right.
It is a cup.
Yes, it is.
Words created it, it's now created.
That's right.
Faith is calling something into existence.
That's right.
God said, let there be light, and there was light.
That's right.
God didn't say to the darkness, get out of here. He called the light into being.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Okay?
That's right.
And-
He
and-
called what he wanted.
Right.
Right.
So,
Not what he saw.
so there-
Not what he saw.
So there's two sides to that. One is a lot of people are trying to call what isn't what is, as though it isn't. I don't have a bill. Here's a bill for the. I don't have a bill.
Right.
That's not faith.
No.
No.
But what I don't have when I look at the bill is the money.
Right.
So I call in the money
That's right.
as though it is
That's right.
to pay the bill that is.
That's right.
Faith doesn't deny the bill.
No.
And I think I haven't explored this. This is right hot off the press. Let's
Hot
think
off the
about it.
press. That's the way to do it.
Faith is creative. Once it creates something, it exists.
It does.
Yes. Yes, it
You've
does.
moved it from the realm of the spiritual
That's right.
into the realm of the material.
Right.
You
That's
don't
right.
move it back.
No.
That's right. No.
Now, if I got a problem with what I've created, I've got to create a new thing to supplant it,
That's
but
right.
I can't speak that out.
That's right.
Right.
Okay?
That's right.
Right.
Far too many people think that you can use faith to remove things. No, faith creates things.
That's right.
Right.
Okay? So it's faith doesn't as much remove a disease as what it does is it brings the healing.
It brings the healing up, which cancels out
Which
the
cancels
disease.
the
Right.
disease.
It renatures
That's
it.
right.
It brings it back into
That's right.
alignment. Because that's all disease
So-
is that you're out of vibration. It's all,
Dis-ease.
it's
It's
dis-ease.
dis-ease.
That's
So,
right.
so if I have a plus and I have a minus, two things to deal with, and I got a plus and I want to get rid of it, faith doesn't say go away plus.
No.
No, right.
Faith says I call
I
the
call the
minus
minus in
into being.
to take away.
And the minus comes into being and immediately cancels the plus.
That's right.
Okay?
And the plus has to respond.
Right.
So when I am looking at healing, I'm calling healing into existence
That's right.
that cancels the disease.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Would that be accurate?
That's
Yes.
accurate.
So that Devar is almost a one-way street. Devar is a word calling a thing into existence.
Right.
That's right.
The connection between the word and the thing
That's
is
right.
the word creates the thing. The
That's
word
right.
doesn't obliterate the thing,
Right.
it calls in the thing.
That's
Right.
right.
If you need a new thing to supplant that, you got to call that in.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So faith words are always reaching into the unseen
Right.
and bringing them
calling
into
it
the
into the
scene.
now. Faith isn't looking at the now and trying to get rid of it.
No. No.
Right. But also our words mobilize not only things, calling things in, but they mobilize heaven's forces on our
Behind it,
behalf.
but that's the
because
whole
the
thing.
word says that the angels are ministering spirits sent out in the service of those who are heirs of salvation.
And
It
they
also
hearken
says
to
they
our
hearken
word.
to the voice of his word.
That's right.
Where is his word supposed to be? In our mouths. In our
heart
mouths.
and in our mouth. That's right.
So when we speak his word and we call something in, we loose the angels to bring it to us.
That's right.
But if we, by that same token, release more words that cancel out those words,
That's right.
then they can't do anything. They may have
right.
been bringing it to us, but they have to step
They
back.
have to stop. That's
They
right.
have to stop.
So think of a child's nursery saying or something like that we had years ago, sticks and stones will hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me.
That's not true.
That's absolutely not true.
That's right.
That sticks and stones can hurt you, but words can take
kill
life
you.
out.
They
Words
can
can
kill you.
steal your
That's
very
right.
life.
That's right.
They
Words
can.
can bring
Right.
death.
Right.
That's right.
You think of a parent that speaks over their child, you're
You'll
not
never-
worth
yeah,
anything.
you're never gonna
that
amount to
You're ignorant,
anything.
you're dumb, you can't
That's
do
right.
anything. What does that do to that child? It may not
It
physically
creates
kill
that
them,
within them.
but it kills their
It creates that
their
image in them.
Their image.
And then they live it out.
Yeah.
And then they live it
Yeah.
out. So words
Yeah.
are vitally important of watching out for our words.
You gotta take them each one very seriously, and then you see why Yeshua said that we'll give an account for
Count
every idle word we
That's
speak.
right. That's right. Certainly he
So,
did.
so all that from
And that's speaking, what do you have to do to the mountain?
You have to say
You have
to the
to
mountain.
speak to the mountain.
That's right.
That it be removed. It
That's
doesn't
right.
just say think about it, look at it,
Or pray to
wish,
God for the
Or
mountain.
pray to God, right. It doesn't say pray to God
Right.
how big, talk to God about how big your mountain is. It says talk to the mountain about how
Right.
big your God is.
And you see
that
how-
mountain has to move.
You
It
see in
has to.
Yeshua's ministry that he never stopped to pray about something.
No, he
so to
did
say.
not.
He spoke to it because
That's
he
right.
said, everything that I do, I see my Father do.
That's right.
So every word that he spoke, he would say, "Peace, be still," to
That's
the
right.
storm.
And
he
they-
would say,
and it obeyed
"Be
him."
healed," to the
right.
the sick
Rise
people.
up.
Rise up.
That's right.
And come forth. And
He had to
everything
speak
he
what
was
he saw
declaring.
needed to be brought into
That's
manifestation.
right. That's right. And that word Devar, it's a very definitive word. It doesn't
Yes,
mean
it
you're
is.
just idly talking. It's not chit chat.
That's right.
It means you're declaring. It's a promise. It's
That is it.
translated
That's
as
the
a
word right there.
promise.
It's a declaration. And a
declaration.
decree.
Right.
It's not just
It's a
you know,
decree. That's a
chatter,
good
like you
word
said.
for it.
It's a decree.
which is a very you
Which
think
is
of
a
decree,
legal
it's
covenant.
A
It's
legal,
legal.
It's
It has to be done.
It's legal.
The elements of this realm have no choice but to respond. They have no choice. They have to respond
That's right.
because we have dominion,
absolutely.
right? Dominion
Absolutely.
over the natural elements of this earth. So they have to respond.
That's right.
So Devar shifts the concept of a word from a thing that really doesn't seem to have much power and makes it into a very powerful thing.
That's
Right.
right.
That I can look at the world of things and think that's real, and I look at the world of words and
Right.
that somehow is less concrete, less real. But the truth is that words create
That's right.
right.
things.
That's right.
That's the connection we
That's
want
right.
to understand in that Hebrew
Yes.
word.
Yeah.
That the word itself is responsible to create things.
That's right.
That's right. And in the root of that, Jordan and I had found that there's another word, Devar, okay, or Devere, okay, which was, I'm not sure what
It means inner sanctuary.
Right, I'm not sure where the thing was in Samuel. Was it in Samuel? The first time that it was ever used,
Yeah.
it was talking about the sanctuary, where the Holy of Holies was, and it's called an oracle.
Yeah.
Okay, again, see, there's that
The
speech.
literal
It's
translation is
literal
the speaking chamber.
the speaking chamber. So the Holy of Holies was the place of the speaking. Was the place of the speaking. Okay,
Yeah.
and it's like everything is like
Yeah.
just so connected.
So let's look at that a minute. We have about a minute.
About a minute.
Go over that with me again. In the Holy of Holies, it's
Holy-
the what?
It's called the speaking chamber.
It's called the speaking
from
chamber,
where?
yes.
Where's that from?
It's in Samuel.
In Second
And-
Samuel.
but that's
somewhere.
the word Devar?
Debir.
Debir.
So when
Which
it-
comes from Debar.
Right, I can see that it comes and it's attached to the root. So when they apply that word to the Holy of Holies, then literally what they're saying,
It's 1 Kings 6:5.
that
1
is
Kings
the
6:5.
speaking chamber.
That's right. Which, that's where his presence dwells. And it says in Hebrews 2:3, is that where it is? Where it talks.
1:3.
1:3.
Hebrews
Hebrews
1:3.
1:3, where it says that he is upholding and maintaining and guiding and propelling the universe by his mighty word of power.
The word of his power.
Everything is held together by that
By
word
that
that
word.
he spoke.
By that, again, that's Devar.
Devar.
Okay, that's Devar.
But Devar,
Debir
Is
is
the
a
place.
derivative of
Yeah,
that same
right.
root. But see how it still
Debir
carries
is
the
the
essence?
place.
Right.
It's the
Debir
place
is the
of
place.
his speaking.
so
Right.
could we say Devar is the place of the Debar?
It is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. That you
Debir.
can say that.
So then Devar is the place where speaking takes place.
That's
That's
right.
right.
So this could be a Devar.
And that is the Holy of Holies. the
But I
sanctuary.
mean, in our life,
In
this
our
could be a
life.
Devar.
That's
Right.
right.
This is a place
well,
where
we create
speaking-
that.
Right. By
we
our
create
words.
that by our words.
So
You
that
create a Holy of Holies by your words.
that's what I'm trying to get to is that
I just got to
that the Devar is a created place where speaking takes place.
That's
right.
right.
So when you are engaging in speech with somebody,
That's right.
you
You're
are creating a
something.
place,
That's right.
That's right.
whether it's the
What
holy
are you
place
creating?
or an
What are you
unholy
What are you
place,
creating? That's
creating?
right.
depends on your words.
That's right.
But when you speak, you're literally creating a place.
That's right.
It's not just we're having a conversation.
No,
we're
you're
creating a
literally creating
place,
a place.
and in that place, God's holiness can be present.
That's
That's
right.
right.
This is Pastor Don and Donna Long and Jordan. Once again, we're glad that you joined us for Grafted In. We look forward to seeing you next week.